Let's take a look at event scheduling and the plant day interface.
So we're using a feature in here called Plant Day. This is basically like pre-scheduled feeds, so you can set up your whole cycle ahead of time. This has been huge for us. This is something we're using in this building. Probably gonna roll it out in our other building pretty soon, but you can set up all your rooms and then have all these feed schedules basically pre-set up, so that as you're going through this flower schedule, this flower cycle, all these changes are gonna happen basically automatically. So for every one of these different events, we can come over here and essentially have settings that we can have for each phase pre-programmed in. So the beauty here is that, you know, say we're coming on a stretch day 29 and we're trying to go into a more vegetative push out of generative, we can basically have that all pre-programmed and have it just kind of fall into those new schedules for us, which does take a lot of time off the user for sure.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, less room for error, basically. So this is just like an example of one of those schedules. And we're kind of doing like a hybrid here where, you know, I think automation's great, but you can only really get so much result with like full automation. So we did try kind of feeding all zones the same. We've kind of done this hybrid now where we put like majority of the shots that all zones are gonna get on the plant day schedule, which is the free program part. We're automating that so that like 90% of those shot times are like not something we have to mess with. And then basically we just come in and then on a zone by zone basis, we will add certain shots on. So say like the last P2 of the day that needs to kind of move around to hit the P3 dryback we're looking for in the morning. We put those on a zone by zone, and we find that's really given us kind of the best of both worlds, where we have some automation. It's taking a lot of the load off of our operators having to program stuff into the controller. Gives us a big safety net there that like if there is a user error, like it's gonna fall back on the plant day schedule, which is pretty safe. But we're still getting that like zone by zone customization that I think is super important if you're trying to hit, you know, good yield numbers. So this is kind of where we've landed. That's given us, yeah, like I'd like to think it's given us the best of both worlds, where it's like a hybrid automation and a full customization. On the automation side, we also have, let's see, so similar to the plant day feeds, which, you know, is our pre-scheduled feed events for all the farms, we also do the same thing with tank fills. So the tank fills are pretty much fully automated as well. So we have a lot of recipe changes we do throughout the cycle. With this system, we actually could do more recipe changes than we probably would do normally because it's so easy to do it. So it really allows us to get really customized with this. But, you know, we have what recipe we want pre-programmed in here for the entire cycle, and it's gonna do all those recipe changes for us. So basically just have the tanks filled every day with exactly what we want that day. So that's been really nice for us. And it really allows us to kind of customize more than we probably would if we were doing that manually, just because we don't have to actually do it every time. We also are doing the plant day feeds similarly in veg. We do that as well. Got here. So veg has been great. This is basically, we're able to not really do any like, you know, strain by strain or zone by zone customization for veg. And we kind of just do a fully automated approach in veg, and it works extremely well for us. So that's taken one of our biggest like problem areas and like the, you know, an area where you're really prone to mistakes in veg to pretty much something that's like extremely consistent. We don't have, you know, we're monitoring more than we're actually like changing it now. So it's just kind of keeping an eye on it, and it really does its thing. And I think the biggest advantage to like this plant day approach, whether it's flower or veg, is it's really kind of pulled us away from like a reactive day-to-day type thinking. And we're really looking more like, how did this whole round play out? So we're making changes, we're letting it play out across the whole round, and then we're looking back and saying, was that better or was that worse than we did before? But it really, like, you get to the end, you know exactly what you did. And then the beauty of that is when you actually get around the hits, it's like repeat, just hit that same cycle again, and it's gonna do everything basically over again for you. So really easy to lock in good results. When we first started using this is we've kind of just like started running what we thought was like the best thing we had, like what was working before, you know, like we basically started with what we were kind of doing, and then we were just looking day to day, you know, did that push too much runoff, did that push too little runoff, what were the drybacks we had there. We basically just started like, you know, through trial and error, just kind of modifying all those schedules. And again, it's a very like iterative, continual improvement type approach. Much less reactive than just like every day going in and field stuff and making changes, because with this, you know, we saw those changes need to be made, and then those changes are made and they're made permanently, basically, where we don't have to keep making that call every time. It's like, once you find something that works really well, it's just there locked in. So the way I kind of look at it is like you're you're making small improvements, but you're always moving forward and you're always making improvements. And instead of this kind of day-to-day thing where some rooms do well, some don't, you see a lot of round-around variation. With this, it's kind of like, it's much easier to lock in those improvements and just make sure those are locked in. All right, what's the next thing we want to try? Did that work? Did that not work? You know, if it did, all right, it's going into the plant day schedule. Now that's like permanent. It's going to happen every time.